living with diabetes. Let's listen to our kids.
A lot of people don't know there's two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. So they assume I can't eat or drink anything with sugar. I have to watch my diet. If you go to a restaurant, people are like, are you sure you can eat that? That's probably the biggest misconception. And I get they don't know any better, but it does get annoying at times having to always correct that.
When I tell people that I have diabetes, they usually think I can only eat certain foods. They think I can't have sugar. So I always have to tell them I can eat whatever I want as long as I put insulin in for it. So I always have to tell them that, or they always just think I can't eat whatever I want. But I always have to tell them I can eat whatever I want.
When I tell people that I'm diabetic, a lot of the times what they do is they kind of just look at me in, I guess you would say, a pitiful way and just say that they're sorry because they don't really know much either about type 1 or type 2. And when they do know, they understand a lot of the struggles that I have to go to. And I guess you would say that diabetes is something along the lines of just an autoimmune disease that a lot of us have to deal with day in and day out. It's very stressful, but at the same time as well, very manageable if you know exactly what you're doing.
They also tend to stare at you, specifically those who have an insulin pump. If you take it out, for example with me, they constantly stare at you, and maybe not necessarily, or maybe they don't try to do it intentionally bad, but maybe they're just curious, but sometimes it makes me feel a little uncomfortable.
I feel like diabetes is a superpower. You get to connect with others about your illness and meet new people and connect with them through your illness. That's how I feel. I think life with diabetes, the easiest thing is checking your blood sugar. I know me, I get alerts from my Dexcom, and it just tells me my blood sugar. So I think that's the easiest thing.
One thing I find easy is checking my number or treating a low blood sugar. Checking my number comes pretty easily to me. I want to make sure I'm always at a steady number. Changing a site, it is also pretty easy. My pod and CGM sites can be hard to change and annoying sometimes, but after a while it gets easier and it just comes more naturally.
One of the easiest things that, personally for me, since I have the pump, is just calculating how much insulin I need. I'll just put in the carbs that I'm gonna eat, how much sugar I have, and it just puts it out for me.
So life with diabetes, I think the easiest with me is having my parents constantly remind me. I know I like to be independent, but when parents are always going to be parents, and especially when you have supporting parents and loving parents, they will always check up on you no matter how old you are. I am 21 years old, so I am constantly getting reminded by my parents, and I live with my parents, so they're always knocking on my door in my room, and they're just trying to see how I'm doing. They look at my face if I look pale, just little things like that they still keep doing since I was diagnosed.
The hardest thing about life with diabetes is how tedious everything is. Just having to constantly check your blood sugar, administer insulin, count carbs. It's just really tedious. It can get a little bit annoying at times.
One thing I find that people often say when I tell them I have diabetes is that first they ask me if I ate too much sugar, especially if I tell younger kids that. Or if they're older, they'd say, and I explain to them, they say it's more complicated than they would thought, or they haven't even heard about it. Or sometimes they find it interesting and they want me to go in more depth about it.
sometimes I have to be excluded from things, or like exclude myself, because like I have like a low blood sugar or high blood sugar, so I obviously have to treat it. So then I sometimes get like excluded from like activities.
But also the hardest thing for me is just remembering to put it in. I'll be in a rush, I'll just wake up and then I'll need to eat and get on with my day. But then the insulin pump starts beeping that it's starting to get up. That's usually like my reminder, and so it's playing catch up, and that's not really good. That's usually my hardest thing.
The easiest thing my parents helped me with is just like going to pick up like my prescriptions. If I asked them to, they would check my blood sugar for me. They'd literally do anything I asked them for.
One thing my parents have always helped me with, and I have made a good habit of, is checking my blood sugar.
My parents, they're like a really big help with this, because they always help me keep track of my carbs. And I have like a sensor, like that tracks my glucose. And so I have it on my arm, and so I need help putting that on. So my mom always helps me put it on because I can't reach it back there. So she always helps with that.
One of the things that my parents usually help me with is remembering to put it on. Usually when I was a kid, I would used to just want to go and play, and that's where I had most of the help that they had.
And growing up, I guess you would say I had very helpful parents, and a lot of my parents' help would be regarding being able to remind me that I'm still a person rather than just someone with diabetes. Being able to connect and talk to them would be a lot of the easy ways that my parents would be able to help me. Along that, just give me small reminders of, hey, make sure to text your blood sugar, or make sure to take your insulin shots, or make sure to calibrate anything you have.
My parents always help me with my diabetes. I feel like the easiest thing for them is to tell me to correct my blood sugar or to take insulin, because when I get alerts from about my sugar, it goes instantly to their phone, and they can just tell me, they can call me right up, which they always do. They call me like in class, they call me in practice, and they usually say, hey Malik, check your blood sugar, or take your insulin, correct? And I feel like that's the easiest thing for them to do.
And one of the hardest things that they have to help me, mostly as a kid, was count carbs. I was a kid, I didn't understand what it was. As you grow older, it becomes much easier. You have technology that usually helps you, but as a child, that's usually the hardest thing.
One hard thing that they have helped me with is making sure I know how much of a correction I should make. It can always be hard to tell if my number is going to go sky high or it's going to drop, especially if I've just exercised or before exercising.
And I feel like the hardest thing for them to do is to help me carb count. Now, as I get older and as I turn 18, my parents aren't going to be there as much anymore. And I will always be jumping from place to place. And they're not going to be with me when I go to restaurants or when I'm out to eat with my friends. And they can't just say, hey, are you correcting, or are you carb counting right? And I feel like that's the hardest thing for them to do, because they're not going to be there.
They try to keep me included with everything, because most places I go, they usually don't have diet pops or whatever if I go to a party. So they always have to bring diet there so I can actually drink pop there with people. So they always try to keep me included with that stuff.
And as well as the hardest thing that my parents would relate to would be just being able to learn along with me, because during that time when I had diabetes, around 20 years ago, it was very hard for both me and my parents to understand a lot of new technology that was going on every day. And it's just a difficulty of being able to learn along with your parents and being able to talk and manage that is very hard in some sort of way.
Started going because I went to UIC hospital. Before that I was going to a different hospital, so when I transferred, my doctors there were very much supportive. They always were looking out for my diabetes, and so when one time my A1C was pretty high, but the following diabetes checkup I went with my mom and the results came in and the doctor said that my A1C had drastically dropped in a good way. And so that made me, not only me happy, but my mother as well. And she jumped and she was like going crazy. She was like, oh my gosh, like, this is great, like I'm happy. And that really showed that my mom, not only my mom, but my dad as well, he wasn't there unfortunately at my doctor's appointment, but they both really care about me and making sure that my diabetes is being managed. And so that was kind of funny to see, cause or maybe not funny, but kind of like it was nice to see that, because my mom, she loves me and she's always there for me, and working together has made that change of that A1C that has dropped.
When I was younger, we would go to a restaurant late at night and I would ask for a Diet Coke, and I ended up getting a regular Coke. And it was a nightmare trying to get that blood sugar fixed during the nighttime, but I'm so glad I had my parents there to be able to help me manage that during the night, because I don't think I would have done it by myself, being very young as I was.
I spent the night at my friend's house this summer, and I have an insulin pump, and the site was bad, so it wasn't giving me any insulin. And so my mom had to come up there at 5 in the morning and change my site for me. And I had to make sure I didn't wake anyone up.
In high school, when I was going to homecoming, I got right to the school at the homecoming dance. And then I don't remember what happened, but I accidentally ripped off my insulin pump in the car right before having to go inside. And I called my mom and I was like, I don't have any backup supplies, what do I do? And I was going to rush home and drive home really quickly because I was already late. But my mom was like, no, it's fine, just wait in the parking lot. I'll bring your supplies, I'll bring a backup pump, insulin, everything. And she got it to me so fast so I wouldn't have to leave the dance and come back home. Really grateful for that.
A wish that I have for both my parents about my diabetes is I wish they would have allowed me to think of diabetes as taking care of myself rather than just another chore. I think it gives you motivation if you think of it as taking care of yourself rather than a chore, because who likes to do chores? Who likes to do chores? I don't think anyone does. So looking at it as if it's taking care of yourself, like you take a shower, or you get stronger, like I lift weights, or get better at basketball. So I wish my parents would have allowed me to think of it as taking care of yourself.
But I do wish that my parents would have enrolled me into a diabetes camp earlier, because I'm 15 and I haven't gone to one yet. So I'm trying to get into one this year.
Something I wish my parents would have done was guided me more instead of just doing it for me. They're very hands-on. They like to help a lot, and that's good. I think a lot of parents should help, but instead of just doing it for me, teach your kids how to do it themselves. That's gonna help them more in the long run.
When I was a kid, I didn't know other kids with diabetes that well, and I really wanted to go to the overnight diabetes camps. There's a snowboarding diabetes camp, and they never let me do any of those things. But besides that, they really did everything for me, so there's not anything I can think of.
I think what I wish my parents would have done is probably, maybe since I was little, 5 or 6, I wish they could have taken me to programs where I could connect with other diabetics, same age as me. And I say that because I always felt I didn't know anyone else who was diabetic, So I wish that I had the opportunity to like meet with other kids my age and we could talk about how diabetes is to us and how maybe we don't like it. And I think the idea is just trying to connect with them. I think that would have been nice.
I wish my parents would have helped me experience more growing up. As much as I do love my parents and all that stuff, I think a lot of what parents need to do, mine included, were to help me be able to experience more and not restrict me while being able to help me, guide me in a way, rather than be able to do my diabetes for me.
Thanks to our children for sharing their feelings, and thanks to the parents who listen to them.